Hi everyone, it's Catherine here from Ink Figure Cat. I am back with another colour cube challenge. So I'll pop the little picture up so you can see me choosing. I decided I wanted to work from colour cube box 2. So I put in 251 through to 500 and it came up with the number 300. So that's this one. Not inspired by the picture. Jellyfish is not something that I would want on my card right this moment. Although I am going, oh, I have got that otter stuff. Would that work? No. I know an otter isn't a jellyfish, just so you all know, but I was just thinking, is there the fishy elements from this, but totally the wrong colours. So pop that back in the basket for a future project at some point. I'm thinking Distress Oxide, so I have got my little pile of Distress Oxides over to the left, so let's see if we can start with that, and then we'll decide what we want to make. So I'm thinking Faded Jeans is my first port of call for the blue. I know it's a darker blue than that, but I don't think I have a darker blue. I don't have huge amounts of the Distress Oxides. Oh, do you know what? Blueprint Sketch might be closer. Let's go with Blueprint Sketch. Speckled Egg, maybe? I don't think I've got tumbled glass. Yeah, I think unless Iced Spruce. No, I think Speckled Egg. I know it's slightly more greeny colour, but I think we'll go with that. That's going to annoy me. The lid the wrong way around. Okay, the yellowy colour is definitely a fossilised amber, I think. Yep, that works. Orange. Have we got an orange? I think we've got Spice Marmalade. I think that might be the closest. I don't think I have any other colours that are going to work. No. Apologies if you can hear my husband making very strange sounds in the background. Now, do we go? Yeah, I think we go Aged Mahogany for the browny red colour. Right, that's my colours chosen. And it was time to decide what to make. So I had a little hunt through the stamp storage and I found this Altenew stamp and die and stencil set. Pretty confident this came with a magazine. Don't know which magazine, but I'm pretty confident that's what it came with. So I've started by stamping them in a light grey colour, and I stamped the flowers 4 times. So 2 flowers twice, sorry. Just so that I've got a bit of a choice as to whether I go with 2 or 3 flowers, and then I've got something to pop on the inside of the card, because this year I'm definitely trying to make an effort to make things that are inside the card as well. Now, I did zoom in so you could see the grey. Obviously, completely forgot I was then zoomed in, so some of this is off camera. I'm really sorry. I went in with my stencil for the first layer, and I'm just doing the fossilised amber. The second layer on each of the flowers, I then go in with the Spice Marmalade. Reasonably light. I don't go in very heavy. I've gone quite heavy with the fossilised amber, so they're quite dark yellow, quite a solid thing. And then I am going over with the Spice Marmalade a little bit lighter. Now, there are only 2 layers to the stencil, so I'm then going in with the Aged Mahogany for the centres of the flowers, but I decided I wanted to just darken some of that stenciling, so I'm just going in and going relatively lightly over the stenciling that was the second layer, just with that Aged Mahogany. Now, I cut these up and popped them to one side. Bit daft that I cut them up, because the whole point of leaving the stamps in the stamp platform was so I could go back over them and stamp the embossing. But now I'm going to create my background panel. So for the background panel, I'm going to use the leaf. Now the leaf doesn't come with a coordinating stamp, and this is where the colour cubes are really coming into their own. I would never have chosen these colours for the leaves, but that's what the colour cube's telling me to do, so I'm going to do it. I've gone with the speckled egg for the background, for the most solid piece, and then I'm going in a little bit lighter with the blueprint sketch. With the second layer, but then these flowers have a third layer, which is really, I'm going in a little bit more intensely. It doesn't line up particularly well. It's not the easiest of stencils to use, I will say that. I also don't think it's been cut particularly well. But I think that that's, you know, it was a freebie with a magazine. It's never going to be the same quality as the ones you actually get from the company themselves. I just think that they go with a slightly cheaper version for these magazines. But I did the leaves 3 times, and I really love how that looked. So this is the point where I realised, yeah, I still need that piece of cardstock because I need it to sit in the right place on the stamp platform. And at first I was going to emboss, then I thought, no, I'm just going to stamp them with the aged mahogany. I do end up then embossing. The problem with embossing is I haven't like heat set the stenciling that I've done, and that ink does stay juicy for a little while. So it does in some places adhere where I didn't want it to adhere, but some fierce blowing with my, giving them a good huff of breath, and then also giving them a good tap does seem to take most of the embossing powder off. And to be honest, I don't mind the sort of like slightly patchy look. I think it works fine with the images that I've got. Now, there is a die for one of the flowers, but it's only for one of the flowers, and I realised that, and I thought, do you know what? I'm just going to go in and fussy cut. It's just easier than lining them up, especially since it actually doesn't even cut out the second flower. So, ignored the fact that there was the die, and I'm going in with my scissors, giving them a very slim white border. To be honest, because the stencils didn't line up brilliantly well, some of the white border I have caught with a colour, so it doesn't matter. It works with this sort of like patchy look, especially to the leaves in the background. Now, there is an element of me wishes I'd done more leaves in the background because I end up covering quite a bit of them with the flowers. But I still like the final result of the card. I think it looks good. And I do end up bringing a little bit more of that stenciling onto the inside of the card too. At first I was going to do 3 flowers on the front, and in fact I stuck with 3 flowers for a little while in the composition, but I ended up just taking 1 off and just doing 2 in the end. I just felt it was covering too much of the blue that was in the background. Now, I decided I wanted to mount it, and I wanted it with this foiled cardstock. I brought in the card to make sure the colour was all right, and I thought it worked with the orangey colour. And this is foiled cardstock from Kingston Crafts. This is the orangey gold colour. And I've brought in my dies that are from, I think it's called Craft Addiction UK. And they've got that like wavy stitch look. They don't nest as well as I would like, but it still is fine for the purposes of the card. It's brought in that kind of orangey colour, more that's sort of slightly more faded in the actual card that I ended up with the stenciling. I did gut the middle because, you know, foiled cardstock, it's expensive. You don't really want to waste it. And I did have to just rethread my ATG because it had got a little bit tangled and had snapped. But I think it's a really pretty combination, this colour. And as I say, it is one of those things where you just kind of go, I absolutely would never have chosen to do leaves in that colour. Oh, this is me swapping them out. I'd put 2 of the same colour, same flower down. And I keep bringing that third one in because I'm like determined to use it, but no. But yeah, I just never would have chosen to do leaves in that colour normally, and I think it works really well. I ummed and ahed over my sentiment a bit. I chose a couple of different ones and ended up with this one that's a Dina Wakley foiled one on the blue that I think just brings out those background really well. I'd got this scrap of yellow ribbon. Well, it's kind of like a cotton twill type trim. I wanted to use that. It was the perfect colour scheme, and I thought it just added a little bit of texture and softness to the card. And then I did raise my sentiment up on the foam. I popped a little bit of liquid glue on it just to give me some wriggle room, because I wasn't quite sure if I'd get it straight. In fact, I still sort of like wriggle it around a little bit more after this, because I just think, no, that's not quite right. And then I chose some enamel dots from those waffle flower ones. They're a slightly more greeny blue than the blue that's in the stenciling, but I think it works for the card. Now, I wanted a 5x7 card blank for this, but I hadn't got a white one, so I just made one. It seemed like the most sensible way to do it was to fold my cardstock in half. Probably not the most sensible way to conserve your cardstock, but, you know, it's white cardstock, it's fine, I can cope. Okay, onto the inside. As I say, trying to make an effort to do more to the insides of my cards. So I've got some fairly thick white paper. I've done a little bit of that Distress Oxide blending of the speckled egg around the corner, and then I'm just adding those leaves, working out, can I fit a flower? And I think, yeah, I probably can. But just as I'm about to stick it down, think, oh, I need to edge that panel. So I take the blueprint sketch and just edge it slightly, and then I've got enough space to add my flower down in the bottom right hand corner. And that is my card done. So I'm really happy. Once again, Colour Cube has pushed me out of my comfort zone, and I've picked some colours I wouldn't normally have picked. Really pretty card. Totally ignored the picture on the card and went with the flowers. Not anything sea creaturey. Hope you've enjoyed this. Please subscribe to see future videos. I've got plenty coming up, both scrapping and card making. But other than that, here are some close-ups of this project. I hope you've enjoyed it. Are these colours that you would choose to use? And have you got the colour cubes yet and are challenging yourself to use out of your comfort zone colours, or is it something that you're tempted to do? I know they're expensive, so I know they're not for everyone. Other than that, thanks for watching. It's really appreciated. And until next time, bye-bye.